Hi, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to be doing a product review video, a product I've never used before. Let's head on over to my workbench and I'll show you what it is. So the color that I've chosen is a really popular color by Benjamin Moore. It's called Hale Navy. And I had a really hard time choosing because there's so many beautiful colors to choose from, but I do love a good navy. This looks almost like a slate color though in the can. I'm very interested to see how this goes on. Let's actually swatch it before we put it on our piece of furniture. Let's just go ahead and give it a little test to see how it comes out. On the top of the can, it looks really very dark. So I'm really curious because seeing it in the can itself does not look as dark, but I'm sure it's gonna dry down a lot darker. So we'll let that sit for just a minute and then we'll go ahead and get into our piece of furniture. See why I might have been a little surprised when I opened the can, because this is what it dries down like, very, very dark. I'm waiting for the swatch to dry and then I'll show that to you. So let's go ahead and talk about the paint itself for just a minute. See from the paint swatch I did, it is indeed a dark navy, so don't be alarmed when you do open a can and the color appears to be a little different. Sometimes that's just because it isn't dried down. One thing I do know about this paint is the recoat time is 16 hours. Now we're gonna go ahead and spray it and we're gonna brush it because I know people do both. So I wanna showcase this in both ways. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the particulars. First of all, this right here will cover between 400 and 500 square feet. The dry time to the touch is 4 to 6 hours and recoat time is 16 hours. That's a very long time, but I hear it's easy soap and water cleanup. This is a water-based paint and therefore it can be put in your sprayer and cleaned up very nicely and easily. Let's address priming. Do you need to prime with this paint? Not necessarily. So it does say on the can, if you are applying this to raw and or a bare wood sanded surface, you'll want to prime first. That way you've got a barrier and your paint isn't going to soak directly into that raw wood. Also, I tend to prime whites and light colors if I'm concerned that my piece I'm working with may be a bleeder, say cherry or mahogany. In this case, we're not going to prime. I've got a manufacturer finished piece. It's not a bleeder and we're working with a dark color. So we're just gonna go straight in to a very prepped piece, which means I've cleaned it and I've scuff sanded it, wiped it down, and it's ready to go. The piece that we're going to be doing today, it's a 2-drawer nightstand. I have gone ahead and done my prep. I cleaned with my crud cutter and then I scuff sanded. Because this is a pretty slick surface, I wanted to go ahead and kind of scuff it up, which is always a really good idea with any paint that you're using. It's just going to help make sure that your paint adheres really, really well. I'll link both of these products in the show notes as well. Necessary prep step is when they have the rollers like these do, I like to tape them up. I don't want to get any paint on any of those rollers for the drawers because then it can alter how the drawer will slide nicely. The other thing I like to do is I do tape off my holes to make sure that I get no spray or paint drips inside the drawer. Okay, so we're ready to get started with this side. I'll go ahead and tip the camera down in just a minute so you can get a real good close-up view. I am gonna be brushing this side. So we'll brush one side and we'll spray the other. Now keep in mind, this has a 16-hour recoat time. So today, all we're gonna be working on is getting on one coat. For the brush section of my video, I'm gonna be using my favorite Zebra 2-inch brush. Okay, so here we are, first coat. That is really wet. I didn't want to go too light, but then again, I didn't want to go too heavy either. So it'll be interesting to see how this levels out and dries down. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of brush strokes in there. But again, when I first started, I kind of went on the lighter side and felt like I just was getting a lot of nothing going on. So I loaded up my brush a little bit heavier, and as you can see, not totally. I always make it a good habit to only go about a quarter to a third of the way down the brush, not putting on too much product. So I'm super interested to see how this dries down. For today's video, I am using my Fuji Q4 Platinum system. Okay, so that's it for today. We now have to wait. So if patience isn't your thing, I'm gonna tell you, this probably isn't the paint for you. It is a 16-hour recoat time. So we'll come back at this tomorrow, but I can tell you the coverage so far is pretty dang amazing. I do have to admit, I already know I like the way it sprays versus brushes. That's just me though. I'm a sprayer by nature, so I tend to gravitate towards that finish, but it is already drying down in certain spots and it looks flawless. So we'll come back to this tomorrow for the second coat, but let me show you a glimpse of the first one drying. Just so you can see how beautiful that is drying down, look how smooth that is. I'll flip over to the other side where I brushed it so you can see. So I do have to say, this is the brush side. It's looking really, really nice as it's drying down. It is drying really smoothly. That there is a heavier spot that still has to dry. It does level out quite nicely with a brush, so I am impressed with that. I just really like spraying because of the time element. It really goes so quickly. It literally took me less than 2 minutes to spray this whole piece. And then here's our other side, which is sprayed. This looks a little darker over here because obviously we don't have the light hitting it, but it is looking just as beautiful. Came out beautifully as well. So it's just the top that gave me a little bit of an issue with the texture. The coverage on this is beautiful for one coat. Obviously you can see right here, you know, we need more coverage there, which will catch on the second coat. So let's go ahead and get that on. On its back because 2 reasons. One, I always want to make sure that I get what I call the undercarriage, the underside. And then the other thing is sometimes when you're spraying a top, coming down on it at a different angle can sometimes give you some striping, some uneven finish. So by doing the top this way and laying it down, I'm hitting it head on and it tends to give it a much more smooth finish. So we'll take a look at this in just a few hours when it's all dried down. I went ahead and did the drawers too, their second coat. What I figured on the second coat with this particular formula is that laying it down a little bit on the heavier side and definitely overlapping it is what's going to get you that really beautiful ultimate smooth finish. So we'll take a look at this in just a little bit and see what the final product looks like. In about 4 hours, it is all dry to the touch. Now I'm done. 2 coats. The coverage is really, really great. I don't have any peek through anywhere. I'm very happy with the way that the top came out. Don't know what caused that to occur on that first coat, being very textured on the top, but after scuff sanding it, which is totally fine to do, and layering up that second coat, it has come out just beautiful. That is the final finish. I will go ahead and stage this, and then we are all done. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this video was helpful for you. And thank you for being subscribers. If you aren't subscribed, make sure you go hit that subscription button. That way you'll be notified when all of my latest videos are released. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next video.